G'day Dark Realmers, it's horror author and illustrator Michael J. Elliott here with you again today with a special guest appearance by Charlie the Wonder Cat. And today I'm going to be relating three books that have had a really huge impact on me, both as a reader and a writer. And I've been tagged by this, to do this by other great indie authors. So let's get started. Hey Charlie. Okay, Dark Realmers, well, I was tagged by a number of authors, including Christy Stratos, J.B. Taylor, and Sunshine Sommerville, and they asked me to pick three books that have influenced me or had a profound impact on me and affected me in some way, whether it be just as a reader and a lover of books, or whether it's affected me and impacted on me as an author myself. Okay, so the first one I have for you, my choice, is The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Now, that copy itself means a huge amount to me because my mum passed away 12 years ago, and Mum was a huge reader. She instilled a love of books and a love of reading and a respect and care for books in all of us. And we're all, in my family, readers of books and lovers of books. And we all have different tastes, of course, but we all have that love and appreciation of a good book, okay? Now, when Mum was alive, just a few years before she died, she was a member of the Doubleday Book Club, and they'd send her a magazine each month and she'd choose a selection. Mum was very much into biographies, and because she lived through World War II in London, the Blitz and everything, she was very much into stories of war veterans and so forth, okay? But she had a surprise for me and she said, I've got something for you. I've bought it from the book club. And Mum knew I was a huge fantasy fan. And when I saw this that she had for me, the complete Narnia Chronicles, I was just blown away. Not only because of the stories themselves, which are just absolutely wonderful, they're timeless, but because I'm also an illustrator and drawer, this edition has the actual original pen and ink drawings in it, and I absolutely love those old books that have that very fine, they're created with lines, very fine, you know, it just fascinates me. Now, C.S. Lewis, I just basically graduated up from Enid Blyton, which I loved as a kid. You know, the Magic Faraway Tree, the Wishing Chair, all those sort of things. So I was getting a little bit older, and I was looking around for something that would fill that gap. And when I discovered C.S. Lewis, wow, this was just amazing. This Narnia, these ordinary children being taken there, fauns and satyrs and talking beasts, and just absolutely wonderful. It fired my imagination. Now, I can read the Chronicles of Narnia over and over and over again, and it still gives me, at 50 something, a lot of joy. So, as I said, that book holds a special place for me on two levels. That physical copy itself, because it's something I got from my mum, so I will treasure it for always, and also because it is one of my favourite fantasy books, okay? So that's my first choice. Now, the second one is a book that was required reading for me in year 12, which is the equivalent for my American Dark Realmers is the last year of high school. I went to a TAFE school, which British Dark Realmers will know all about, but that's basically stands for Technical and Further Education. It's an alternative, or it was back then an alternative to high school. And I enrolled in modern literature. And one of the books we were required to read was Anthony Burgess' A Clockwork Orange. And let me tell you, I had never, ever read anything like that in my life. It terrified me. Now, Darkrealmers, this may surprise you, but I'm a really gentle person. I know I write creepy, horror, everything. But do you know, I can't watch kickboxing, I can't watch boxing, I can't watch those movies where people are breaking arms. I just cringe, okay? So a book that was about ultra violence was just, wow, just amazing. And what I loved was the message that Anthony Burgess was trying to get across, okay? Now, you may be wondering what the title meant. Now, when Alex, the main character, attacks a writer, he basically says he's against social engineering, as he calls it. He said people are good or bad. That snaps the Wonder Kitten, by the way. He basically says we can't interfere. Whether people turn out good or bad, that's just nature. And he basically saying if we start doing that, it's like creating a Clockwork Orange. And the irony of the story is Alex himself becomes a Clockwork Orange. Now, I had to sit back and just take a breath after I read that. And that wasn't my final journey or experience with A Clockwork Orange. In Year 12, I undertook sociology, and there was also psychology. So we sociology students and psychology students, part of our assessment was to watch the movie, and I'd never seen it, okay? It wasn't released on DVD, or we didn't even have DVD back in 1979. It wasn't even on video, because Stanley Kubrick said it's not to be released in any form until after my death. So I watched this movie and it terrified me. It absolutely scared the life out of me. The violence, you know, the social engineering, a society that's in absolute utter decay, you know, and it's virtually given up. It's given up on itself. And that terrified me. And what I enjoyed about the movie too was there are comedy moments in that, and I think Kubrick basically did that to offset the grim violence, the horror, the fear, all that sort of thing. Now, that book still has an impact on me today, okay? And it's one of the books that helped to fire up my love of dystopia, okay? Or dystopian stories. Okay, now, my final choice is another classic, and that's Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I read this, it wasn't a school requirement, anything like that. I just picked it up at the library and the blurb fascinated me, and oh my goodness, here was a man who wrote about test tube children, genetic engineering, you know, a supposedly idyllic society back way back, even before we had IVF or fertility treatments, anything like that. And it was both bewildering and it was frightening, but it was also incredibly fascinating, because the thought that these children were all genetically engineered to fulfill a role in society simply by taking away some amino acids in the fetus, or adding something that made them alphas or alpha plus, so they were the thinkers, then the betas, who were the sort of next one up, and then C and D, right down to epsilon, who were basically you know, the borderline, you know, intelligent idiots who did all the manual cleaning up and all that sort of thing. That was really frightening. And I could see why the characters in this thought they lived in this perfect society, because everyone was happy or being programmed to be happy, and everyone had their role in society. So there was no jealousy, there was nothing like that. But it took the character of John, who was born in a reservation where outsiders lived, to make them see how different things were. And he was so excited to be going to this brave new world. And when he got there, you know, it was just, he couldn't believe it. He'd heard all these wonderful things from his mother, and it didn't reconcile with what he was expecting and how he expected a society to be. So John basically became us, the reader, who becomes disillusioned quite quickly from going from a point where we're actually in awe of this society because it's, you know, wow, you know, there's no hatred, you know, everyone is just happy with their lot in life, to realising that you can't, once again, like a Clockwork Orange, you can't engineer society, you can't engineer humans. And that's one of the reasons I love dystopia, because I love how writers, pardon me, Darkrealmers, their vision for, you know, dystopia. Now, an interesting thing I learned was you don't get too many novels about utopia, okay? There's a few attempts, but do you know why humanity can't ever achieve utopia? No, I'm not being a pessimist here, Darkrealmers. It's because there are 6 billion people on the planet, and your idea of utopia may be 24 hours shopping, you know, with unlimited credit, but mine's totally different. So you multiply that by 6 billion with people all having different ideas about utopia, and you see why one size fits all will never work in human society. And that's why dystopian novels are wonderful, because I love them, because, yeah, they're bleak and they can be dark, but then there's also books like Brave New World that put on a face of, we've found utopia, but underneath there is all this rot, and it's not the paradise that people make out. And I found that in also wonderful books like the McAdam trilogy by Margaret Atwood. So there you go, Darkrealmers. They're my 3 choices from a potential list of, over the years, how many books I've read, and I'm sure you're the same. But those 3 books had, in some way, all influenced me and shaped me, okay? With the Chronicles of Narnia, it fueled my love for fantasy, and I went on to read other great authors like The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper, which absolutely brilliant. I'll do a review of that maybe for you. And so that fueled my love and my desire to find good fantasy. So that had an impact on me. A Clockwork Orange frightened me, and a book has never frightened me before. That was the first one to do it, okay? And Brave New World was just absolutely mind-blowing, about a society that back then you would have laughed at. But when you think what we've achieved along those lines, you know, eradicating certain genetic illnesses, or at least knowing about them, you know, in utero, those sort of things. So it wasn't that far away. So those books have really, really shaped me, both for their impact, but also the enjoyment they've given me, okay? And they're 3 books I can honestly say I could reread over and over again. And as I get older, I see more in them. I see a lot of differences, and I see nuances that I didn't see before. So there you go. They're my 3 choices. Now, I suppose I'm supposed to tag 3 other people, so I don't know whether people will respond to this tag on Facebook or on YouTube with a video like this, but I'm going to select Stuart Bint, my good mate, okay, Adam Rees, who's an awesome writer, and I'm going to suggest, who else? Let's see. Okay, Jason Greensides. Okay, they're 3 great friends of mine, 3 exceptional authors too, I might say, and I'll be interested to see what they have to say. So there you go, Darkrealmers. This is one of those very rare personal videos, so you get to know a little bit more about me, Michael J. Elliott, what I enjoy in terms of literature and so forth. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because we've got some great content coming up for you from the world of horror. And as I always say, Darkrealmers, even though it's maybe not appropriate, well, maybe it is a little bit appropriate, because we're talking about some pretty chilling books. Well, at least two of them are. So remember, Darkrealmers, stay in the light, and I'll talk to you very, very soon. Bye for now.